everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Eternal X Wolfpack Paranormal. I am your host, Sean Ellis, and I would like to thank the following person, Joshua Robert Moore, for the theme song for the Eternal X Wolfpack Paranormal. Definitely go check him out at Earthcore Audio. He does an amazing job, and I've seen that he created a few more things with drum beats here lately, and working on an album as well. So definitely go check out Joshua Robert Moore. And like I said, thank you for creating the new Eternal X Wolfpack theme song for the opening show. Also tonight, we have a great guest. Used to be a wrestler too, and he's held titles. He likes Funko Pops. He likes comic books a little bit. And into the paranormal, and he's got his own podcast called Twisted Tales, and it's on All Access Network television as well. And we will have him, Mr. Jermey Cotter. So we're going to bring him on right now.
Hey, Sean, how we doing, man?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Jeremy?
Hey, not too bad. I was a little nippy up here in Massachusetts, so I got my long sleeve shirt on tonight. I was hoping by now we'd have short sleeve shirts and be able to just enjoy a little bit of springtime weather, but Mother Nature's not quite ready for that yet.
Yeah, I think it can't make up its mind sometimes, that's for sure. That's for sure.
I agree with you, man. You know, I work in a hospital, and it's the weather's been so crazy. It's been busy. It's been quite busy, that's for sure.
Yeah, most definitely, for sure. One of the things I would like to talk to you about is how do you think of the podcast you're doing here on All Access since you just started here a little while back?
You know, Twisted Tales, it's really become, hey, Russ, how's it going, man? You know, a good friend of mine, Russ Stabber, but going back to what you were saying with Twisted Tales, you know, it was, hey, how you doing, man? It went from concept to reality, Sean, so fast. You could almost snap your fingers, because I'll give you the quick rundown. So I was at a paranormal convention in Salem, Massachusetts, and Gwen and Litriana were there, and Raven and a bunch of members from All Access were there, and I talked to Gwen because I said, you know, maybe I'd like to do like some co-hosting for somebody. If they needed a co-host, I wanted to get more involved in the podcast. You know, thank you, in the podcast universe. And she's like, well, how about doing your own show? And I'm like, I'm not too sure about that. I mean, I don't mind being a guest, and I kind of like the co-host idea, but doing our own show, I'm like, yeah, well, how about we talk about it after the holidays, right? So literally the week after New Year's, she's like, okay, when are we going to start? I'm like, start what? Your show? I'm like, okay. She's like, give me a list of names that you could possibly come up with. So I'm sitting there and I'm coming up with names, and I don't know when you get involved with yours. I just started writing down a bunch of names of what I was going to name the show, and I'll be honest with you, they all sucked. They all truly sucked, right? So I sent her the list. I go, this is going to be funny. I go, here's my list. And she goes, and Twisted Tales was one of the names that I had actually chosen that she thought would be good. And then I know, I agree with you, Russ. Thank you very much, man. So I sat there in my head. I'm like, you know what? I can make Twisted Tales work. And then I tell Gwen, I'm like, Twisted Tales is where we're going to go. Hey, Thomas. And then Gwen came up with this amazing graphic you showed on the screen before I came on, the Twisted Tales logo. And the ball just started rolling. Literally within, I would say, a week after I talked to her, I already had 4 months worth of guests already booked, solid, all the way from my first 4 months. I just went out there and started knocking them out. I started contacting a bunch of. I still have a lot more to do. I do plan on having you on my show at some point. I haven't had a chance to get in touch with you, and I'm putting some things together. And I would love to have you on, and and we can do it in reverse. Obviously, it'd be fun.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I started in late January, and it has been awesome. I've had a lot of tremendous guests on from the world of horror, paranormal. I'm working on some wrestling guests. I had Raven on. We did a Funko Pop thing. I have Chris Brown coming on this coming week. We're gonna talk about music because we're both into the heavy metal type of stuff. So that's gonna be interesting. And yeah, you know what? It has been awesome. I'm working on some horror celebrities to have done down the road. I really want to spread it out, and I want to make this as well-rounded as a show because, as the logo says with Twisted Tales, it can go in any direction it wants. It doesn't have to go to a linear path. That's why it's twisted, And one more thing was want to give massive credit not only to Glenn Johns for the logo behind me, but to Danny Radical, who actually created the theme song for my show. So
that's cool. That is cool. I remember when first seeing you pop on and I seen your logo on the back. I was like, that's kind of cool. That's interesting on how it was, because it kind of reminds me of a cereal box in the background a little bit, when you see it, Twisted Tales. And then it's like, then you got a combination of everything you talk about too. So I thought that was kind of neat and kind of catchy.
Yeah, I love it. I actually went out and I ordered the thing behind me is actually a real banner. It's actually a cloth that I actually got a real banner to put behind me. I started running with it, and I'm working on some other things that I'm looking forward to bringing to people with the brand. And, my cohort, the one on me before me, Paranormal Unveiled with Nate Elwell, and Glenn, we started up a thing called Wicked Wednesdays on Wednesday nights, which is really, really cool. And we actually included Christina, who was on early in the morning that same day. So it's been a fun collaboration, Yeah. Yeah.
Tom,
you can profile me, Thomas, but you might need a straight jacket by the time you're done. I'll tell you.
Thomas, you've been on my show before when you were with the other group, and now I'm going to have you on here before the end of the year. So I'm not afraid to have you on.
No, he's a good dude. I'm sure that once I actually get a chance to talk to him, I haven't had a chance to talk to him much, but I'm sure I'll get him on my show too, because he's involved a lot in the paranormal. It'd be interesting to pick his brain.
Oh, I definitely like it when he does profiling and stuff. I actually produced one of his shows one night, and he was talking about some stuff, and we got into a good conversation of some of the stuff, because I'm interested in that too, because some of that goes, like I said, hand in hand with the paranormal, and it's awesome.
I think it all does, honestly. Thank you, Thomas. Love you too, buddy.
Love you, man.
The whole paranormal and all the things that go with it, true crime, because there are spirits that exist from gruesome murders and things of that nature. So it always intertwines with each other, and you can always put it together, because look what came up before all of us got on here. The X-Files. The X-Files was huge, and that had murder, that had suspense, that had supernatural, that had horror elements. It was a mixed bag of everything, which I consider the All Access Network to be a mixed bag of everything. We have a tremendous array of talented podcasters on here. Everybody has been tremendous, and they've been upping their game all the time. And I think it's tremendous. And I can't wait to see where the network goes from here. It's awesome. I thank Litriana and Gwen and everybody else for their support. And I can't wait to see how the network grows, honestly.
Well, just since the time that I've been on, because I remember I started with the network a year ago last January, and I told Gwen then, I said, it's going to go. And now we're up to like 22 shows, I think she said at one point. So
it's amazing. It really, really is, and I love your logo behind you too, man. Did you create that yourself? Is that something? Yeah, I love that, man.
I actually created the round part of it, and a friend of mine created the wolf. Susan Victoria created that part of it, and I've added it in there. It's a virtual background that I run all the time, and it's also my logo in my messenger and my chats and everything. So that's how everybody finds me. But
that's awesome. I love the wolf. The wolf is one of my wife's spirit animals, and that is really cool. Yeah,
it is. It's one of my spirit animals, along with the jaguar as well. So, but I prefer the wolf because it just goes along with Anubis and everything else. So I thought that was cool. And like I said, the wolf always seems to appear when I need it. So
yeah, for me, it's the wolf. No, I'm sorry, not the wolf. The bear and the owl are my two spirit animals, my direct spirit animals, of the bear and the owl. I carry them on me. I carry the bear on my right arm, my left arm from my father, and I carry the owl on my right arm from my mother. Because I've lost them both along the way, unfortunately. But I like to carry them with me at all. So
yeah, sorry to hear that. I mean, that's a tribute to your parents, which is really cool.
It really, really is, man. I love it because the owl is the wisdom, and my mom was always the wisdom of our family, and my dad was always the protector, and the overall just the overall backbone of everything. So that's why the bear is representative for him. I love having them both on me, and I carry them with me wherever I go. And whenever I leave this place, I'll have them with me. So that was the most important thing to me,
So my question is
Sure.
for you is this: how did you actually get into the paranormal part of this?
All right, cool. So I'd say almost 15 years ago now, probably even 16 years ago. Actually, yeah, when we really got into it was about 15, 16 years ago. But back in 2008, my wife and I, who was my girlfriend at the time, we went to Las Vegas, and we did like a little a paranormal tour around some of the casinos. It was like a haunted Vegas kind of thing, kind of like gimmicky, and they'd have you hold the dowsing rods. I mean, I didn't really understand any of it or believe any of it at the time
Right.
because it was all her thing. She always watched all the shows like your Ghost Hunters and your Paranormal State and blah 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 and whatnot and so
Right.
forth. And then fast forward a couple of years when we got married, we went on our very first paranormal investigation because she's like, I want you to go with me on a real investigation. It's a place in Massachusetts called the S.K. Pierce Victorian Mansion. It's in Western Massachusetts. And I'm like, fine, I'll go. And I was kind of like skeptical, sarcastic, all of that kind of stuff. Because, what is this crap? I mean, I'm a wrestler. I'm in theatrics and everything. So we go into this place, beautiful. It hadn't been quite renovated. It's been fully renovated now, but before. So I'm walking around in there, and they do the pre-investigation tour where they take everybody for a walk around the tour. And me being me, I can't stay with a group. So I veer off, and I go into this place that they called the nursery at the time. Hey, Gwen. So I go to this place that they call a nursery. There was a bed to the side, and there was a crib, and it was dark. And all of a sudden, I'm not lying to you, man, there's a shadow figure came out from the side of the wall, and it blocked the window and the street light and everything. Sat there for probably like 5 seconds, but it felt like an eternity, and then it went and just disappeared. So I'll be honest with you. The first thing I thought of, okay, where are the smoke machines? Where's the projectors? I'm looking from the mirror. I'm checking the dresser drawers because being in professional wrestling and being in theatrics, you try to figure out what the hook is.
Right.
Is there a projector? Is there a smoke machine? Is there something this happened? And nothing. All there was a mirror hanging on an old wall. And I'm like, okay, that just happened. And my eyes went big. And I left the room. And I joined with my wife, and I told her what happened. She's like, really? I go, yeah. She goes, you just started walking around and you had an experience. I'm like, I can't explain it. What the hell am I supposed to do? But then, we did some investigating that night. They showed us how to use some of the equipment. They showed me the most annoying piece of paranormal equipment, and I will die on this hill. The ghost box. That.
Oh yeah.
Can't stand it.
That static sound in there. I wish they could figure out a way just to cut that static out of there.
They did. Really years later, they got that portal box where it actually just shoots the words through it.
Mm-hmm.
But that original box, man, we're sitting there, sitting on the bed, and it's going through the channels. And within like a minute and a half, I could feel my nerves in my hands starting to twinge, and I'm starting to get a headache. I'm like, this is, But over the years, I've been able to change my style. I started being able to hear spirits, and I started being able to communicate directly to them, and not have to use equipment. And now, we were at the Conjuring House one evening. I'm sure you heard of the Conjuring House, and we were doing an investigation. But before we did it, everybody was sitting around the room, and it was introducing everybody, and it got to me, and I said, well, I can see certain things. And the woman who was running the events goes, you need to tell everybody what you are. I go, what am I? She goes, you're a clairvoyant. And I'm like, I am? Okay, I am. And all of a sudden, it's just this whole wave of positive energy and everything, just because validation and explanation finally came to me.
Right.
For a while, it's weird because I don't remember having any imaginary childhood friends. I don't remember having any experiences when I was a child. I can't say that it didn't happen, but I just don't remember them, maybe, whatnot, and so forth. And when it happened, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I'm even working in a hospital, I actually can hear and talk to spirits at the hospital. I've heard ghost conversations in adjoining rooms in an area of the hospital that's been shut down for a while. Ever since the Delta variant of COVID, we have a transitional care unit at the hospital that I work at. They got shut down because they decided to move away from it, and they I can hear conversations going on in the rooms next to me, and I know I'm the only one in there checking the refrigerators and stuff. I've seen shadow figures walk across the hallways up there. I've had a bunch of experiences at the hospital, which is really cool. But I'm very fortunate that I've been given the gifts that I have. And I always want to learn more. I always want to get further into understanding, as it goes. So for me, everything's a learning process because you never stop learning.
Right. And once you stop learning in this field, you might as well hang it up because there's always something new. There's always something new to learn.
I agree with you, Sean, especially in the paranormal. I honestly, truly feel that we've only hit the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the paranormal in general. We don't really understand all of it. We're barely even scratching the surface of what's really going on behind the veil, modern, interjoining timelines and everything else. So to me, it's an amazing field to even just dip toes into,
So when you discovered your gift after the lady said that you were clairvoyant and you felt that energy feeling, did you start meditating to make that grow or use crystals? How did you do yours?
I had been using, I always, if I go on an investigation, I always carry like onyxes or jets or something like the grounding stones, tiger eye to protect my male energy, so to speak, I guess, because it's a male energy based stone. I will carry some quartz crystals. I do carry like a mixture of crystals. I do meditations, not all the time. I used to do a lot more. I got to get back into it because I definitely. Oh, there they are. Yeah,
I got my bag full.
Yeah, but what I've been doing lately, I have to say, I've been staying open. I know how to open my chakra. It's been open now for a while because I don't want to miss out if somebody needs to speak to me or if somebody needs to talk. I want to be able to do that. And if I'm not on, then I can't do that. But I know it's also dangerous because you don't want to stay open all the time because there are negative energies out there that could wreak havoc on your emotional systems and stuff like that. But for the most part,
one thing that I've noticed since my Reiki master has taught me things, the higher your energy level is, nothing can attach to you. That's what I've come across, at least for me. But I've also heard people say they've got attachment and their energy's high. But I'm wondering if they wasn't at a low point to catch it. Because when I've been around spirits that want to communicate, they don't like me because of my energy. They don't want me being around. They've actually told me and my Reiki master to actually leave the room when we've been in a group on the old team because they don't like what we can do to them.
Well, I mean, they could have an agenda. We don't know, especially if they're intelligent spirits. We don't know. I mean, I truly believe that a lot of the spirits that we have contact with, I feel that a lot of the spirits that we get in contact with still believe that they are here on this side with us, because I'll be honest with you, the things that I hate more about an investigation is, do you know you're dead? How'd you die? Those questions are rude and disrespectful to the spirits, to the people that you're trying to talk to, in my opinion.
In some essence, I've discovered they may actually not be dead at all, because I've come across a situation when my girlfriend was alive before she passed away. She was ill, and I seen a black mass standing in her hallway about 3:00 in the morning one day.
Yeah.
And I said, you can't have her as long as I'm breathing. And the next morning I got up and I seen a spot like on her left side, about middle of her abdomen. It was pointing to where she was sick at. Something was wrong.
Yeah.
And after she's passed away, and last fall, I was talking to a friend of mine, and that shadow revealed itself. It showed me who it was. And it was me. It was me telling me that something was wrong. And they keep saying shadow people can be you from the past, the present, or the future, trying to warn yourself of something or to let you know that something needs to be done.
Right.
They're not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
So it makes me wonder now, when was I able to do that?
I think that we all discover new abilities and new things that we can do on a consistently regular basis. Because, well, in my opinion, sometimes you get certain abilities for a certain amount of time, and then you have to kind of move away from some in order for different ones to come in.
Well,
If that makes sense,
I definitely noticed that. I mean, when I started in the paranormal field, my hands, the palms of my hands had triangles constantly in them. Now, if you look at the palm of my hands, I got a few triangles here and there, but I've got other markings in it. Your
Right.
palms and your hands actually change, and if anybody's ever noticed.
Well, I mean, just like they tell you that your body physically makes changes every 7 years, because I mean, I can actually attest that, because when I was younger, I used to be severely allergic to cats and the dander and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden, or I'd say around my 28th birthday, it just stopped. And now I snuggle with my cats at home, and I don't get any kind of stuffiness or allergy at all. But before that, my nose would get all stuffed up. I wouldn't be able to breathe. And all of a sudden, just like that, it all changed, and it was within that 7-year time period. So I mean, I think in linear talk to that is that our abilities will come in and go out. Like, you'll still have them, but they won't be the most prominent one, where you're learning a new way to communicate, or a new way and something new. Like when I learned a little bit of like astral projection, that I've done a little bit of that, like dream travel, the channeling of spirits, but then some more of the more basic things like energy control. I definitely lost my grip on. I got to get back into energy control. And
I like messing with energy. That's always fun, especially what really gets them is I'll be at a bar or something and I'll freak them out, and I'll say, put your hand up in the air, and they'll put it up like this. And then I'll take my hand like this, and I'm about 5-6 feet away from them, and they can feel me writing in the palm of their hand. They can feel my fingers touching on them, and that freaks them out. So I always get a free beer once in a while for that.
That was pretty cool, and yeah, I think that what they said before, we're learning so much about the paranormal, and we learn so much about even the world that we're living in. Like we were having a conversation earlier about past civilizations of individuals that were here far before us.
Oh yeah.
And the more that they dig, and the more they find temples and cities that were in ruins in the ocean floors. And my favorite one I always mention are the heads on Easter Island. The Easter Island heads, those things have full-size bodies with weapons deep within the earth. You think about how long it took them to get down in there. Think about what they looked like when they were on above, or whatever. What was here when they were above ground?
No doubt.
All the temples in the desert, all the desert cities that have been gone and washed away forever. And to me, it's amazing. The more they unearth, the more we learn that we definitely weren't the first race of humans or beings that were here on this earth. And
most definitely,
I believe that, honestly.
Most definitely, it goes beyond farther than people realize, and it just amazes me that how some people believe in certain things, but everybody's got their own right to believe in what they want. So absolutely. And I'm not trying to condemn that in any way, shape, or form, because, like I said, in some ways, the beliefs keep the chaos down.
Right.
And if it wasn't for those beliefs, this whole world would be probably in turmoil.
Well, you know what? If we didn't have the ability to believe what we want to believe, whether or not the creator gave it to us or not, then we wouldn't have free will. And it's one of the biggest things that we realize as human beings, that we were given free will by whatever higher power was bestowed upon us to be here, and we deserve the right to think how we want, or whether or not you and I believe the same thing. At least we have our beliefs, and we're strong in our beliefs, which is a good thing.
One of the things I found out when I was taking shaman classes is I've learned the Egyptian style from the dark magic of the Egyptian ways. And there was a guy there that does Peruvian. He's a shaman for Peruvian. And when he was showing me how to do the shaman side with the Peruvian way, it was almost just like me watching an Egyptian do it, because they did it with crystals when the Peruvians did it with rocks and natured items. But it's the same thing. It's just named different for them.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. And like I said, some of the things that he was talking about, I can relate to the Egyptian side of it, because they use the crystals the same way they use the rocks in nature. They use the crystals and the energy the same way the Peruvians use nature and the rocks to do their stuff.
That's cool. I think that I was given a lot of my innate abilities from my Native American side, because I have a lot of Blackfoot Indian in me, Native American. My father's grandmother lived on a reservation in Massachusetts at one point back in the day. So, I do believe that I get a lot of it from that. It could be anything, really. I know that my mom's side of the family, which is very English, they came over on the Mayflower. Her maiden name was Stone, so it was definitely an old school name. And I know that they had certain beliefs. I don't know too much about that side of things, but I do feel the Native American side of me definitely is strong in that. I think that's where I got a lot of my innate abilities from, and I appreciate all of it.
In your investigations that you've been on or been out on, how much Native American stuff have you come across? Because I've actually come across quite a bit here in Illinois.
It depends on where we are. Whether it's like an old school burial ground that's in the woods that nobody knows about, or I think I didn't come face to face with, but I know that there was a Wendigo out in the wooded area in the place we went to up in New York. And I could definitely hear, definitely came in contact with a couple of spirits of Native American, like shamans, and I'm not gonna say witch doctor, but that particular style of a medical individual. I've seen some spirits, but mainly in Massachusetts and New England, you can barely walk anywhere without stepping on ground that didn't have some sort of blood spilled on it at one point or another over time. So sometimes it's hard to even determine one energy versus another energy, or if you're lucky enough to get one individual, that's fantastic. But you can feel the energy around you all the time.
Oh yeah, that's one thing that I can do. I can feel when the energy actually shifts, and I can feel the energy around me all the time. One of the things, that up in your area, it's a shame that they crucified a lot of the witches and the Wiccans back in the day, even though they were actually classified as being evil or dark, and they were only trying to help people out.
No, I agree. I'm not a historian on Salem. I'd like to visit there like once a year if possible, and take in the energy. But I know that a lot of the men and women who were sentenced to death were innocent, and it was a witch hunt for certain, whether it was property or maybe a few people dabbled a little bit or something like that. But then again, way back in the day, they didn't quite understand it the way we do now. They looked at it as everything was probably evil or things of that nature. So you're talking back in the 1600s, early 1700s, and along those time frames, people's mindsets were a lot different. Everything was a lot different back then. So it's hard to tell exactly what kind of mindset they were in and what they thought they saw versus what could have been chemically induced by whatever plants they were eating back then, or who knows exactly.
Maybe some homemade mushrooms back in the day.
Well, maybe a little bit of herbal concoctions that were put together that might have been a little bit too hallucinogenic, even for today's standards, possibly. But
even the Indians used to drink or smoke peyote.
It's true. I mean, everybody has their vices, Sean. I don't begrudge anybody. If it helps you get through the day, then so be it.
But yeah, they said that's actually a spiritual experience in itself, smoking peyote.
Nice. I've never done it. I'd be afraid to do it. That's okay.
Well, I've never touched any of that stuff, but I might be tempted one time to try it just because of the fact of the shaman side of it, just to see what effect it would have and what it does. Because I've asked friends that's actually done stuff, and I was like, how did it affect you? I picked their brain and what did you see? How did it, and they would tell me, and they're not afraid to tell me about it. So I think that's cool too, and being able to understand what they've experienced and how it affected them. But everybody's different too.
That's true. No, you're right. And I don't really imbibe in anything more than a nice cold beer once in a while with some friends. That's about the extent of it. I can't say that I hadn't been there and done that for the majority of other devices back. I'm a child of the 80s and the early 90s, and you're bound to run across and pretty much sample a great deal of things here or there. So,
well, yeah, I've had friends that have done it. The most I've ever done is alcohol. So, but like I said, I've had friends that actually died from overdoses and things like that too. So, it's a shame on how some things affect and how people get addicted to it. But it's also how you use it and what you're using it for as well. But
I agree.
Definitely so. But energy, you said you're kind of out of touch with your energy. Do you feel the energy around you? Can you make like the energy balls between your hands and feel that energy and that magnetic attraction?
I'm always tingling, man. My energy level is very high, very, very high. I'm always on the go. I tell you, I sleep maybe 3 hours a night. I'm up at 3:30 in the morning to go to work. Most nights I don't fall asleep till like 11:30 at night. If I stay asleep, I'm lucky. My mind is in constant work, whether it's doing whatever dream work it wants to do, or I never stop.
My mind.
Which is crazy, but
it took me a long time to figure out how to shut my mind down enough to go into dreamscape to do traveling and stuff and dimensional work, because my mind doesn't ever shut down. So I actually use frequencies when I go to sleep at night and listen to them all night long, and that puts me in another state of mind. So that actually helps me when I do that, especially when, how do I say, I got more energy than I need.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm very fortunate. I can actually see people's auras when I'm in person with them. I can tell them what colors are on them and where they're at. Read people. I can see people's spirit guides that they travel with them on both sides of them, and I am very fortunate to have all of these things. And I don't begrudge any of it. I used to be able to turn myself off a little bit, but I've been not wanting to do that lately. Like I said earlier, I enjoy the experience. I'm sure eventually I'm going to end up crashing and needing to take a break and reset. But until then, man, I'm just riding that wave. That's the best way to say it.
And that's the best way to go. Just open up and go with it, because if you keep holding it back, it's going to build up and it's going to crash you. I know people that's had that experience, and it comes to be overwhelming because they just deny it, and then all of a sudden it's here, and it's like it's worse than what it was because they've not been working with it.
What's crazy, and I know that you can never go back in time and change things, because obviously we got to keep moving forward. But if I knew that I had abilities a long time ago, with all the places that I had been through other avenues of my life, I could imagine what I could have experienced in other locations. I mean, I've only lived in Massachusetts my whole life, but I've traveled a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we're going to get into my other line of work that I did before I even got into paranormal. We were talking about it earlier. But, if I had a chance to experience things out in some of these areas that I've been to before, just traveling and enjoying life, with the other stuff. But that was then. This is now. I worry about now moving forward. I don't take any of the negative energy from the previous day with me to the next one, because a new day, new energy, moving forward. That's why I'm always going, and I'm always working on the podcast, trying to make things better, trying to help people move forward, trying to wipe the negativity off of as many individuals as I can during the course of a day, because I'll tell you, lately it feels like the negativity has been choking people out everywhere. And it being an energy worker like yourself, with me, negative energy is so dense. It's so just heavy, and trying to break through it takes a lot of effort.
I've actually learned not to break through it. I've actually adapted myself through my Menaki rights to reverse it and send it back to the person that does it. That's one of the things that gets them so irritated, because they can't figure out what, how, and why. But they send that energy to me. I just turn around and send it back to them. It's not my energy. It's not my karma. It's theirs, and I don't want it upon me. So I send it back to them, and I'll sit there and explain things to them. It's like, hey, you're projecting this and this, and as long as you keep manifesting this, nothing's ever going to change.
No, you're right. And I feel that it's my duty. Well, not necessarily my duty, but I feel that in my heart that if I can help people break and crack a little bit of that negative energy on them, maybe they can actually feel better and move forward in a more positive light. Obviously it's not going to work for everybody. That. I mean, we're not dealing with absolutes here. We're dealing with what people's perceptions of everything are. So,
I mean, it's a great feeling when you're able to help somebody and they start understanding what's going on. Yeah. But then you've got those people, how do I say, that you could give them advice or lead them to water, and they're never going to change.
You can only bring a horse to water. You can't make them drink it. The old saying, Yeah. That's what I agree.
And I've had a few people like that, and when they just keep coming up to me, it's like, hey, and I was like, okay, I've told you, I've showed you, I've explained to you, I told you things that you need to do, and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, and then you wonder why your life is still chaotic.
You're right, and I try, but it's not for everybody, and some people just have to figure it out for themselves. I agree.
And that's where you get the balance, of the light and the dark. You're going to have those people regardless.
Absolutely.
You're going to have, because you're going to have the ones on the light. You're going to have the ones that's in the dark, the dark side of things. And it keeps everything balanced. And see, I'm the one that's like neutral. I'm in the middle. I go both ways.
Right.
And I'm privileged to be able to go both ways, because I've got guides that will take me both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a great thing, and it's a privilege to be able to do things like that.
I agree. And I've been in the dark before, and I know what I went through for all of that. And I know that when you're in a dark place and you decide you want to go on investigations, you're more susceptible to getting attachments, and you're more susceptible to, metaphysical attacks, because your energy level is weakened and you have cracks in your armor, so to speak, and those things can happen. And I've been there. I've done that. I've had it happen, and I've had some help from some great people along the way that have helped me get rid of all of that. And now being more focused on the positive side and being able to identify, like, I'm not ridiculous. I don't know. I know that there's energy on both sides of the coin.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not trying to abolish all negative energy, because it's not my job. But I can identify it, but I'm not going to allow it in my personal space. Once in a while,
Exactly.
if I have to, if I'm channeling somebody for someone, and and I know that I have people around me who can control the energy so that the spirit doesn't get to
Mhm.
stay longer than they're supposed to, then I
Right.
will allow that to happen. But I'm definitely being more cautious about that. Moving forward, because life is too short, brother, and I'm trying to enjoy every bit of it that I can while I'm here.
I definitely do agree with that 100%. And like I said, I practice both dark and light, so that's a good thing because that's my balance. Because you
Mhm.
understand the both sides of the coin instead of just one sided, and it helps out tremendously when it comes down to doing investigations and understanding things as well, especially when you're reading energy.
Yeah.
So it's definitely very helpful. And like I
Hmm.
said, when I discovered Reiki, I wish I knew that when I started martial arts back in the day, because it explained some of the things that I was capable of doing back then,
Yeah.
and I wish I would know how to apply it. I mean, Bruce Lee always told us, focus and energy, and
Hmm.
now many years later, it's actually sinking in.
That's true. I mean, it's an interesting segue that you were talking about the mixed martial arts, because you had told me about your background, and I know that we wanted to get into my background of a life previous to the paranormal, because God knows I've had quite the roller coaster, from going from professional wrestling to the paranormal to podcasting. It's an interesting amalgamation down the line, but there are similarities within the three, but
Mm, yeah.
it's
And it kind of makes me wonder because it's like me. I went from being, the jock in high school from football and track, doing martial arts back in the day, to being an instructor, to helping my daughters do tram. I used to be their tram coach, coaching JFL football for 8 years for young kids.
yeah.
And then, I ended up being the paranormal field. So it's a big variety of things that I've been through in order to get where I'm at. So it's very interesting.
No, it is, and everything has been meant. It's been meant to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's I wouldn't have gotten into one if it wasn't for the other, and just moving on down the line like that. In my
Mm-hmm.
personal opinion, I feel like one led to another, and there's people are like, "How did you do three so different things?"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Well, something. It's just the way that it is, really. I
I
mean,
think I think the way that we went through things, it's honing our skills before we actually are gifted what we got.
agreed. You know, and with wrestling, if I didn't learn how to perform it, yeah, reinvention. If I didn't
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't learn how to become a public speaker and perform a character and be able to engage with an audience on the live aspect, like in person,
Mm-hmm.
then I would never have learned, and I never would be able to do this now, talking to people on here with different crowds of people, interacting with folks, because you a basic understanding of how cameras work, and how to engage people and how to try to hold a conversation and all of that. I appreciate the fact of what I learned in the world of professional wrestling helped me translate to what I can do now with the Twisted Tales podcast, if it makes
Yeah,
sense. I mean, it's a
that definitely makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I think it's made us to where we are to what we can be now as well, because we've had those experiences. We know what they are. We've been there. We've done it. We've been around enough people over our lifetimes that we can understand things better than, I would say, the average person at this point in time, because some people have no common sense as far as I'm concerned these days. But
some more than some, but okay, we'll leave it at some.
I'm leaving it at a sum, but a lot of them don't have common sense anymore. But but I think the things that we've experienced, it set the path to where we are. That's definitely for sure.
Well, I totally agree with you. And it's just amazing because I mean, there are a lot of theatrics in the paranormal. I'm not saying that they're all good, but I mean, there are plenty of like TV shows that to help get people interested in the paranormal. Some of the TV shows are definitely credible. Some of them, I don't know. I'm not necessarily going to go on either direction, and I'm definitely not going to name any names because
Right.
I respect people on a level, And a lot of those shows you see on TV, they have to build an audience. And sometimes things need to be a little more theatrical. We know as well as everybody else does that they take a week or two's worth of investigations and they shrink them down to 48 minutes plus commercials to try to engage an audience so that they can come back for a following season. It's not like they were faking anything per se. It's just that they had to shrink down all of this hard work in this little itty bitty amount of time. And,
One thing that irritates me the most is, I mean, we're in the paranormal field. Me, you, Gwen, all of us that's on the network. We're in this field to learn and understand and show people what's out there. But then you've got people, how do I say, that goes out, they add stuff that's not there, and just to do it for ratings. And I think that's so wrong, because that gives all of us a bad name that's actually legit. And it just irritates me because, we work hard for where we've been, what we've done, and you've got people just doing it for entertainment purposes only instead of doing it for knowledge.
And I agree, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second just because I feel that you need some of those stars as well, because in order for for conventions purposes, right? You need the stars to bring the people to the conventions, and you have a lot of smaller teams that go there so they can meet with people, and sometimes people connect with other people there. I've made some of my most amazing friendships nowadays through the paranormal, but because of people who I've met at various conventions and locations, and I would never have known about them if it wasn't for these paranormal celebrity type of individuals.
Well, what I'm saying is the ones that fake it is what I'm talking about. The ones that actually that cause the issues for us that's actually doing it for legit reasons. I mean, I don't have a problem with the ones that's actually doing it for the right reasons. Like, they've got Jason Haas and those guys, I used to watch those guys and you could tell, what they've done and, they're legit. They'll explain what they did. They're not shy about doing it.
Yeah.
And, but like I said, you've got other teams out here that just do it for, for hits,
financial gain and whatnot and so forth.
And thinking they're going to make it big, and they're not. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to get where I'm at, and there's a lot of people that helped me, and I'm very grateful for the ones that did.
Absolutely, I'm grateful for everybody I meet, and every opportunity, in the investigations that we've gone on, and to those that we haven't gone on yet, that we have, that we will get to at some point, and for me, it's been an amazing experience all the way across,
Like the best thing about, like I said, doing the podcast is being able to meet people. I mean, I bet people from all over the world that I've talked to on this podcast, and I still communicate with quite a few of them actually,
Absolutely.
And I think that's awesome, and we'll share things here and there, and we'll talk here and there. And there's some people I haven't talked to for a little bit, but also I'll watch them if I see them, and some of them really do a great job, and I'd like to team up with them if I could get overseas with a couple of them, because I got some friends over there.
Yeah,
and definitely do that. And I've got some things on my bucket list. If I ever get to Ireland, I want to go over there where the Druids is and where my family castle's been built, rebuilt. They were rebuilding it when my uncle went over there several years back.
Yeah.
So I'd like to go over and see that over in Ireland. But, I like the ones that's legit and down to earth, you know, and I think that's the best thing that we have on this network is all of us actually put in the work, we put in the time, you know, and like me, when I go on investigations, I do it live. So what you see is what I see too. And if you got a question, you can ask me when I'm live. Say, hey, what was that? Did you see that? You know, we'll figure it out. We'll do it live right there when I'm doing the investigation. That's one thing that I always like doing when I go live for investigations is let the people interact with me.
That's a good idea. I mean, I've never done anything like that before because I'm more trying to stay in tune to the moment. You know, I haven't quite mastered the art of going live and trying to do all this stuff at the same time. when I'm in tune with a location, I mean, I'm in tune with the land and all the objects in the room and the spirits around me, and you know that's to me that's the most important thing at the time. And people could be filming and I wouldn't even know because I'm so in tune with where I am that when I finally break that connection towards the end of the evening, because I'm gonna have to rest at some point and disconnect and let my energy recharge.
Yeah.
I'll lose chunks of time while I'm at investigations because I'm trying to be in tune with what's going on physically at each location. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I've there's been times I've lost time or had a time skip or a time jump or whatever. I've been in 3 situations or 4 situations at least that time has actually jumped. And I was actually talking to Gwen on the phone when one of them happened one day. And I was at lunch and I was talking to Gwen on the phone, and it got to be at the end of my lunch hour, and I was getting ready to say, "Hey, I got to go." And a buddy of mine walks up to me and says, "What do you mean you got to go?" And he says, "It's time to leave. It's 4:30." And Gwen experienced it at the same time I did, the same type of time jump, and we were talking about it and everything, and it was really weird.
Yeah, I haven't hit the time jump yet. I mean, I've had a lot of different experiences, but time jumping is definitely not anything that I've been a witness yet. You know,
I've had it happen once when I was standing talking to Gwen, 2 times in a vehicle, and another with my youngest daughter, her senior year in high school, and one of those happened about 5 miles from the location it happened in a car. But we seen an object that actually flew over us, and I could hit it with a baseball at the time. And I thought my daughter was actually filming it on her phone.
Oh, wow.
And she wasn't. And by the time I got out of the car and got stopped to get a picture of it, it's about this big, but you can definitely tell it wasn't a plane. It wasn't a helicopter. It was really something bizarre.
That's crazy.
And a few years later, I started dating somebody, and they said black cars are following it through the town they were in. And it's about the same time frame. And I went hunting for it there several times and can't find it. And a few people have sent me pictures of some objects in the sky in that area as well, and they're triangle form with the lights on them. So eventually I'm going to get out that way and check that out as well. But
that sounds pretty cool.
But I mean, I kind of do a little bit of everything and et cetera, and that's cool. I know we're getting at the top of the hour here, Jeremy. Yeah. So I'm going to extend this time a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, a little bit more, yeah.
Wrestling. Let's get into your wrestling background.
All right, let's hit the next avenue down the line. Absolutely, man.
I mean, I used to cage fight, and I know it's totally different. And you did wrestling. How did you get into wrestling when you did it?
So I was a lifelong wrestling fan. You know, I grew up during the golden age of wrestling with like Hulk Hogan in the 1980s, early 80s.
Oh yeah.
I think the earliest recollection I have is like 1981. My father took me to a wrestling match at a high school that had like Sergeant Slaughter and Chief Jay Strongbow, and it had those the wild Samoans spitting the shit everywhere and right. But I really got into it after like Hulk Hogan won the championship, and then
Hey Tracy.
I was a fan of Hulk Hogan for about 10 minutes until I got to see people like Big John Studd and Roddy Piper and the Macho Man Randy Savage and the Junkyard Dog and Tito Santana and Jesse the Body Ventura, like all these larger than Andre the Giant, just King Kong Bundy, just larger than life individuals. So fast forward years later, I graduated in 1991, and then I had no plans on going to college or anything like that. It wasn't my jam, it just wasn't what I was going to do. And one day my dad comes up to me and goes, I got the number for the wrestling school. What do you think? I'm like,
oh, wow.
Like, where are we going? He goes, Killer Kowalski's professional wrestling school was in Malden, Massachusetts, a suburb of Boston. And we went in there in I think it was like spring of 92. And around that time frame, and I remember going in and seeing these guys taking these bumps. And I mean, I wasn't the most athletic individual. I mean, I've always been a big dude, but I wasn't really that. And the first day there, they had me practicing a couple, I got to meet Killer Kowalski for the first time. What an intimidating man, just a mountain of a man, Thomas, I'm pretty sure you booked on. Going back to the previous conversation there. So I remember getting in the ring for the first time, and they were making me practice a couple of like basic like lockups and things of that nature. And these guys, I mean, I was a newbie. I was fresh meat. They were like locking up heavy on me, whatever. And then Kowalski's like, okay, I was gonna have you practice falling through the ropes. So. And they had the old school, like real ropes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
End of practice, about like 9 o'clock at night, we're going home. And I've got rope burns and bruises from fucking asshole to elbow. I mean, I looked like I had been in a car crash. And my dad looks at me and goes, so what do you want to do? I'm like, well, we're going back on Thursday. So, because he ran 4 days a week. He ran Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, and Saturday and Sundays. And I went 4 nights a week learning how to get the shit beat out of me and then learning how to do some moves. My very first body slam was an experience unlike anything I had ever felt in my entire life, because you've seen professional wrestling rings. They have like a spring on it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a secret. I'm not peeling back a curtain that hasn't been peeled back a billion fucking times.
It's like a boxing ring.
Exactly. So... But the ring that I learned in was an old boxing ring. There was no give to it. So when you got slammed, there was a pole in the middle, and it was boarded. There was no give to this ring. His show ring, that was different. That had all the nuances that a professional wrestling ring has.
Mm-hmm.
But the in-house ring in the school was an old school boxing ring that had the in the middle. So when you're learning how to take bumps or backdrops or whatever the hell you're doing, you're taking him on a hard surface. My first body slam knocked the wind out of me. It took me like 2 minutes to get my wind back. I was like, hey! The whole time. My dad's sitting there watching, going, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm getting back in there again," and went back. And then I had my first in front of crowd wrestling match about a year or so later. It took me a little bit longer to learn because I wasn't as athletic and jacked up as a lot of the guys that,
right.
So I had to come up with a character that would personify me, So that's when I created the outpatient. I was an escaped mental a lunatic from a mental hospital. I had like the long hair and the dark Indian eyes and the ripped up street clothes, and I would scream and holler and bash my head into the turnbuckles and choke and eye gouge and do all this crazy ass shit. But that was a character that I created because it was me dialed up to about 10. They say professional wrestlers are always themselves dialed up to about 10.
Yeah, I can see that.
It took about the first few years, 4 or 5 years. I was always worried about having like really awesome matches and getting all the moves in and getting the crowd pumped up. And then one day I wanted to learn about the psychology of the wrestling business,
mm-hmm.
Character development. Because I could do the crazy, I could bang my head on the buckle, I could do the bumps, but why was I doing them? where's the important things? Where's the hot camera? So I started learning that part of the wrestling business as far as character, like, what would my character do in this situation? What, I started developing that, and then I started focusing more on that and less on the bumps because I'm a big dude. I mean, I'm like, hey, Morgan, I'm 6'3". I was 6'4" back then, about 375, 400 pounds. So I'm a big man no matter what, And the less bumps I started taking and the more mental I started getting into my matches, I found I was connecting with the fans more on the mental side of the coin. I didn't have to do as many bumps to be able to tell a story. And telling the story in professional wrestling is just as important as being able to do all the bumps in the ring, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I remember back in the day when I was in high school, toward about a year after high school, so it had been about the time you graduated. I was working with a guy, and we were actually going to go to wrestling school. We were actually going to take off and go to wrestling school, and the only one we could actually find and locate at the time, the Ultimate Warrior had one.
Really?
Yeah, he had a school during the time, and it was over in Texas somewhere, and we were actually going to go. And if we would have done it, we would have been in the attitude era just like you was,
Yeah.
Because we all come up with that attitude era. And like I said, and then I got later down the road because we never did follow through with it. I wish I would have, but I never did. But then later on, I got into cage fighting.
Yeah.
And the old boxing rings, I had a boxing coach. I had an MMA coach. And we'd set up those boxing rings. And I know there ain't no giving them, because the old school ones, they got the planks that goes across them and the metal bar, like you said. And we'd all get up there and mess around, and we'd jump off the turnbuckles, and I'd do the flips off the turnbuckles and everything. And it's like, how are you doing that? And I was like, it's martial arts falls.
Yeah.
See, I can relate all the stuff that you guys do to the martial arts stuff because it's like taking a bump. When they sling you over, you got to land a certain way. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. I do jump off the tops and do cat falls, and I'd understand where to hit them without hurting them, because I would watch it and I'd understand what the chemistry was.
Exactly.
But the only problem is I never did get down. I know you guys talk in code once in a while, right? When you would, hey, bounce this way or go this way because it's going to be a bump or a fall or bounce off the rope and then I'm going to nail you. I never did get into that theory of it, but I do understand that. But it's interesting on how I related all that to the martial arts to what you guys do.
No, and a lot of it is true. I mean, professional wrestlers learned a lot of their striking from boxers. They learned a lot of it from martial artists, like the judo throws that were modified into wrestling holds.
Mm-hmm.
And, you see a lot of the martial arts gimmick style wrestlers who taught how to throw punches without actually connecting. And, it's the hardest part about the wrestling business, Sean, was not necessarily, like you said, the bumping and all that. It's the storytelling. That's the hardest part. If you can't be an actor and a stuntman at the same time, then you weren't going to have a shot at it because that's as important. To me, like I think the best professional wrestlers, even the ones in the current day, because I do follow some of the current product, are the guys and gals who resonate with the people the most.
Like Rhea Ripley. I mean, she's one of my favorite ones right now.
You hit my favorite lady wrestler currently is Rhea. No doubt.
She is awesome the way she does things. And she goes all out. I mean, she's just a brute.
She is. And there are some other ones that are coming up, like Tiffany Stratton. I know is an up and coming.
Yeah, she's got a gymnastics background.
The one that they released recently that really pissed me off because she was so talented and you never get to see it was Alba Fire. Alba Fire. She was part of Chelsea Green's Hervis thing.
Secret Hervis.
She was Kaylee Ray from England before she came to WWE, but she was an amazing athlete too.
Some of the things now that I'll say this: when we know who took over there when everything hit the fan, I thought he started doing a great job. When he did it, the stories were actually coming out really cool.
Yeah.
But here, the last couple of years, they're not complete, and I see characters linger that has so much potential that they could just be outright stars in some ways if they did it right. I mean, I'll give you a prime example for one. Sure. Aleister Black. Man.
He was just recently released like last week.
Yeah, I mean, he has got so much potential the way he does things, and he's got his own gimmick, and
his wife was just his man. Just became his manager, Selena Vega. Because and if you noticed, they stole their entrance. What they were currently doing from Karrion Kross and Scarlett, who were released probably about a year or so.
Yep, he's another one.
And the biggest problem is right now is it's not Triple H. It's not Hunter's problem.
Oh, I know.
It's the TKO side of things. They don't like supernatural gimmicks. I mean, they released the Wyatt Six, the whole group of them.
To me, that's what made wrestling great back in the day. Is like when you seen Sergeant Slaughter come out there and he's taking on the Iron Sheik.
Oh yeah.
And they got that story and that feud. Or Superfly versus Roddy Piper. They used to have those blood matches and cage fights. Oh, yeah. And you come home. You make sure you're home every night to watch that when it came on. And especially like Saturday night's main event. You would stay up all night just to watch the main event. And, like you said, people's gotten away from the comic book side of it a little bit. But I think they still need that. They still need that gimmick and that story so they can get lost with it instead of just being bored.
Yeah, I agree. And they have the comic characters like the guy Danhausen that they just brought in with the
he's kind of funny. I actually like watching him. Yeah.
Like 150 pounds soaking wet, but you are cursed and all that stuff. It's cute. R-Truth still brings a good comedy gimmick to the gimmick. I mean, the guy is in his 50s and he looks like he's not even out of his 30s because his like Father Time has given him a pass,
Well, it's just like Billy Gunn. He still looks pretty damn good for his age too.
Yeah, and he's in his early 60s, I think. Yeah. He's a genetic freak too, And I mean, there's a lot of guys like TKO still trying to figure out what's going on because they're a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate who now has multiple different things between the UFC, WWE, and I guess some bull riding bullshit. I'm sorry, I don't follow it. That's not my thing. I'm not trying to offend the bull riders or anything, but that's definitely not my jam. But to me it's interesting because you have a group of individuals who own it that aren't necessarily in it to get back the money that they lost. And if you just saw recently, the New Day got released, or they were great at their releases. Kofi's been there for 17 years, 18 years, and he walked out the door.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'll sit there and watch AEW. I've seen them live, and it's just another version of WWE.
They're getting better. I feel that Tony Khan should probably bring more people into the storyline part of it because he's been trying to do it all himself. I mean, he even admits it on whatever podcast he goes on that he does it himself. To me, the best character on AEW is MJF. I'm a huge fan of his work.
And I like Tony Storm. I like Tony Storm too.
Yeah, but I mean, she was a WWE product before she became the AEW. Now, just like I think MJF is a tremendous talent. I also feel that so a lot of talent that's there has been booked into oblivion, and you just where they love characters like freaking Orange Cassidy or Jungle Jack Perry, guys who when I first started wrestling in the wrestling business were cruiserweights, and that was it. Darby Allin, who's now their heavyweight champion over in AEW. he's a small dude too, you know. I mean, I think it was a nice feel-good story, and they did all that kind of interesting stuff for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the wrestling business is definitely different, Sean, than it was when I was a fan. It's definitely different than when I was actually involved, because I wrestled professionally from 1991/92 up until when I retired in 2011, and I had my last match in 2013. So, you know, and then I did some. I worked as a manager for a little bit. I worked behind the scenes, helped a friend of mine out with his promotion as like matchmaker, working with character development with some people and stuff like that too.
Right. Yeah. Did you ever get a chance to work with any of the ones that's made it big right now?
The current ones now, no, because but I got a chance to work with King Kong Bundy.
He was cool. I actually met him.
The Atlas, Superfly Jimmy Snook I worked with before. Some of the ECW guys from like the late 90s, I had a chance to do some small stuff with. You know, I got to wrestle. I got to do some enhancement work for the WWF in like 94, 95. You know, I got a chance to be in the ring with like the Smoking Guns, Billy Gunn, and his partner Bart. And,
yeah, Bart, I remember that. He went to be a boxer, I think.
Yeah, but you know, I loved the wrestling business for so long, and I stayed in it as long as I could until my body told me no. And unfortunately, that was the end of the trail. When my body told me no, it was time to hang up the boots.
That's pretty much the reason why I left cage fighting, is because my neck took too many impacts, as in the fact of shots.
Yeah.
You know, because I got degenerative in 4, 5, 6, and 7 in my neck. So now I got to watch sometimes what I do. But yeah, it's caught up to me a little bit from all the extreme shit that I've done, for sure. I did some of the older wrestlers, you know, I'd actually go to watch the wrestling matches. I actually got to talk to quite a few of the older ones.
Yeah.
And I got to meet King Kong Bundy. I thought he was cool. I've seen Rob Van Dam, and I've seen all those guys. Some of the newer ones, I've met them, you know, and talked to them a little bit here and there. Yeah. My daughter actually got Trish Stratus's autograph on the back of her jacket one time when we went up to the Peoria Civic Center. That's there in Peoria, Illinois, and that was cool. And I think my oldest daughter's got a couple of the announcers that do the announcing and stuff. They're just as much as part as the wrestlers, you know. Mm-hmm. So, but and then right after I got out of cage fighting, a friend of mine that worked for Windy City Wrestling, he wanted me to do a stint with him, but the problem is their promotion couldn't figure out a storyline that we could agree upon.
Yeah.
And because I told him I'd jump the rope, I jumped the barrier, and I jumped the rope, I'd come in there with him, and I'd bring my belt, you know, and then he would have his belt because he was the champ at the time. And I said I'd do that, and I'd even agreed to do the best out of 3, as long as, you know, I won one, you won one, and then we just make the last one, you know, the best we can make it, and you know, just be the way it is, the best out of 3.
Of course.
And but they couldn't come up with a deal for that, so I never did get a chance to do that. But he's always sending me a message once in a while. It's like, hey, you know, offer still stands, and I'm like, God, I'm going to be 55 years old here pretty soon, you know, and that means I got to work out for another 6-7 months just to get back in shape to do this shit.
Yeah, no, you know what? I don't mind the time passing by, because if I didn't leave that, I would never have gotten into the world of the paranormal, you know, and which never would have led to what I'm doing now, which is being able to bring Twisted Tales to the All Access Network, and to be able to be part of this tremendous network family that we got going on right now. So, you know, at one hand, move to another, and it's been an incredible journey, you know.
Most definitely. I mean, it's definitely one of the things that's still on my bucket list. If it arises, I might take the opportunity, you know. But I'd have to work out for a little bit to get back in shape a little bit, but I would take the chance just one more time.
I've been offered, and I'll be honest with you, my And it says no. Nope. And if I didn't say no, my wife sure as hell would have said no. So no means no.
I've got offered up to about $8,000 just to go back to cage fighting, and I was like, no, can't do it. Can't do it. I mean, my neck can't take that shot. But I mean, I know the wrestling business is a little different, and I know you could work with people and to make it, make things work,
Of course.
especially with certain things. And as long as you're watching out for each other, because that's the part of it, you're protecting each other when you're doing these moves and making sure everybody's going to come home in one piece and not injured. But you do have your occasional injuries and from some of the stunts that you guys do for sure.
Oh, dear God, there's more injuries than you could ever imagine. You're taking falls from 3, 5, if not higher feet, sometimes off of cages, through tables, chairs, ladders, thumbtacks, barbed wire, whatever the case was back in the day. Some people do even crazier shit with like light tubes, and no thank you, can keep that fucking shit to yourself. I'm all set with that. I did hardcore to a degree because that was the business at the time, but I would never go back to that shit. I remember plucking thumbtacks out of my arms and legs and shit, and just sitting there having people pluck them out for 20, 30 minutes at a time. I'm good. I've
actually been cracked in the back of the head with a beer bottle before, and that doesn't feel good.
No. I've been hitting the head with a steel chair about, 300 times in my life. So, and trust me, they were doing it.
Now, let me ask you something, because I'm kind of assuming. Now, I assume when they hit you with the steel chair that it's got the give side to it and not the back blunt side to it.
It all depends on who's fucking swinging it. I'll tell you this, I've been hit with every conceivable way, and some of them are okay to deal with. Some of them you're checking your head to make sure you're not bleeding too bad out of it or things of that nature. Right. I've been through the majority of it, Sean, and it was a good time.
When you were starting out, I'm sure there was a learning curve. Did some of the older wrestlers ever get you what they call a receipt?
Once in a while, but it wasn't very often because I learned early on how to throw without throwing. So, and where I was taught when you worked for Walter, you worked snug anyway. Right. So the body shots, forearms, they were all snug.
Yeah, you worked tight.
It was what it was. You learned how to suck it up and deal with it. But you wrestled some people who were lighter, and you had to learn how to adjust to that because not everybody. Hey, Ashley.
Hello, Ashley.
And so everybody's coming in towards the end of the show here. I love seeing everybody pop in. I love everybody. Ashley's awesome. I can't wait to go to their paranormal event in Maine. That in September, I'm going to be appearing, doing a speaking engagement with some people at the paranormal convention in Maine in September, which is going to be great. I'm so happy that now I can entertain people on screen, on camera, and I don't have to take any more bumps, Sean. My bump taking days are done. Let the young kids do all that flippy dippy shit,
That's what I'm saying about work right now too.
He wants to give me a receipt because he was late. It's okay, man. I got a couple for you.
I'm sure me and Jeremy can fix you up a receipt.
No doubt, man.
But yeah, I mean, it's just cool that how things ended up and etc. But yeah, that's cool. You got to experience that, and that's awesome.
I appreciate every experience that I've had in life. Not everyone. There have been some that sucked, but I'm not going to get into those. I'm trying to concentrate on the ones that are more meaningful. Like getting a chance to. If I didn't get over my insecurities of becoming a show host, then I would never have been able to connect with Twisted Tales. I would never have been able to connect with the the family of All Access, and we wouldn't be sitting here doing this right now if it wasn't for me, just putting my idiosyncrasies aside and just going for it, and
that's definitely so. That's definitely so true. And like I said, I've met so many different people and so many amazing people on here that that I still classify as friends. And like I said, I classify you as a friend, and
you too, Sean.
Being here on the network with all of us and etc. And absolutely keep it positive and push it forward, brother. And yeah, it's definitely interesting. But like I said, if I get an opportunity before I turn 60 and I feel giddy, I might try it just one time.
I'll be rooting you on, because although I'm only 52, turning 53 this year, my body is like, you know what, man? We got the camera now. We're cool,
I need to get.
Greg, I'm always open. Just give me a holler, and we'll definitely make it work. I can do any time, man. Just let me know.
Yeah, Greg's really cool. He's going to co-host with me here in a few weeks on my show.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm gonna definitely try it once, because like I said, it's on my bucket list, and depends on what the situation and stuff is too. But I'm one of those old school guys. It takes a lot to get through my head, and I take a few knots regardless.
You know what? If you can make a few bucks while you take a few knots, fuck it, who cares?
And if it's for charity, I would definitely do it. If it was something for charity, and me and that person can get together and get it all ironed out, that'd be cool. I'd definitely do it for charity, for the kids and stuff like that, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely cool. That's great. You've got some experiences. I've got some experiences. And like I said, I had to give it up when I was 37, and I was fighting guys that was 22 years old. So
yeah, let's see. It's been since 2013. So I was 30. Actually, I was like 39, 40 when I finally had my last. I think I was 40 when I had my last match. And although it took me a while to not want to put the boots back on, I'm okay with it now. I'm cool with it, Yeah,
like I said, I got my belt hanging on the wall. I've got my gloves still in the rack, and I've still got my mouthpiece and all that good stuff, But it's like, and some people even ask me, hey, will you train me? I'd be up to training somebody if they were serious about it.
Yeah.
But they got to take it serious, because as well as I do, when you're cage fighting or you're wrestling, you're always fighting hurt, because of the bumps, the bruises. It's just constant aches all the time, and
no doubt,
you got to get used to it. It just takes a specific type of person to be able to tolerate that stuff.
I agree. And now my body is like, nah, we're cool, we're good, we're good. I've eased into the middle Asian crazy phase now. I'm cool with that. It's all good. I've done plenty of charity work over the years and stuff like that for wrestling, and
that's awesome.
I don't mind helping out people if they need help with like their character development, or even like just giving advice in the business. But as far as ever wanting to ever put those boots back on again, I can tell you no. I actually gave those boots that I had my entire career, I gave them to a young up-and-coming wrestler who needed a pair that was the same size as me, and I paid it forward, and I gave them my boots to use. So
that's awesome.
It's cool. It's passing the torch, man. I might not be able to pass much more than my knowledge and anything like that, but it was worth it, and I don't regret it,
Yeah, like I said, I don't think I would change anything I've done in my past for the athletic side, them teaching the martial arts and cage fighting. I don't think I'd change any of that. It's all, I guess I was used to the fact, it's probably like when you first got in the ring around a crowd, and they started chanting your name or yelling your name and stuff like that. You get kind of those jitters, but I got used to that when I was playing football in high school, and then when I got into the cage, it's just compounded like 10 and 15 times. It's like, wow, oh, and then when I got split open in that one match, I got split open, and I didn't even know I was cut. And they stopped the match, checked me out because it was right on my eyebrow.
Yeah.
And my coach put some Vaseline in it, took the little iron out, the boxing iron, and stuck it up there, tried to cold compress it a little bit. And they said, "Are you going to give up?" And I said, "No, I come to play." And that crowd just goes nuts. And they end up calling it at the end of right at the beginning of the third round, and it pissed me off. And me and this guy, we were black and blue. I mean, we both had black eyes. Our noses were, feeling like we got hit, like brick walls and stuff. And I ran into him after the match, and he goes, "Man," he said, "I'm glad they stopped that fight." And I'm like, "Why?" He said, "I couldn't stop you." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "Tell me one thing." I said, "How old are you?" And he goes, 22. And he goes, "How old are you?" And I said, 37. He's like, "Jesus Christ, you hit like a shit brick house." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "I also know something else." I said, "You've had more than 3 fights." And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "I'm 22-0, and you would have been my first loss if they wouldn't have stopped that fight."
Isn't it funny how it all works out, man? Look where we are now. Different time, different era. Let the young.
But it's that experience and that adrenaline rush, that is like until you've experienced it, like you said, you've done it with your wrestling. I've done it with the cage fighting side of it, and it's like a high. It's an adrenaline high.
You know what? I agree. And now, what my high is, dude? My high is when I get my fucking link for StreamYard. I get the show going, because I don't know if you noticed, but right after my guest, right after my show that I get done, I'm already working on the promos the next day. I'm already pushing the promos for the next week's show automatically. Boom, boom, boom. I'm always on there. Gwen will tell you, I'm already contacting her, getting everything going for the ads, getting everything going for everything, man. I live for this now. This is my moment now. Yeah. That was my moment then, and I will always appreciate everything that wrestling gave me. But now, I'm loving this. This is so much fun to be able to talk to you and to talk to the audience and talk to everybody else, and even to all the ones that I'm going to get a chance to talk to in the future. I appreciate all of you from the bottom of my heart. I really, really do, because this is just so much fun. I enjoy it so much.
Definitely so. Gwen popped up. She goes, "Yes. Yeah, we know Gwen likes fast cars and racing cars." So, yeah. But she's hiding in the background too, by the way. I should just bring her up. But anyway, we've been a half hour over, Jeremy. I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. I had a great time talking with you. It was fun talking about the experiences you've had and things that you've done. And, you do an amazing job. Keep up the great work with your podcast. And I do watch it on occasion. And, like I said, keep up the great work.
Hey, thank you, man. And you as well, man. Your show is a great thing to check out on Sunday evenings. I encourage everybody who gets a chance to see this through my side and yours to pop on and check out your show and my show and Nate's show and Leanne Triana's and everybody else's shows on the network. Support local shows, support the network, because we bring you quality programming most days of the week, and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, most definitely. I know Gwen does some amazing work. She is very busy all the time and gets everybody's shows in line and stuff. And she does awesome work. And we're going to close out the show, Jeremy. If you want to stay backstage after I close out, that's fine. We'll sit and chit chat if you want.
Sure.
I'm just going to close it out here with you on it.
Okay.
Next week, we have as my guest the one, the only, the producer of All Access, Miss Gwen Johns. And we're going to pick her brain next week. So we're going to have some fun next week. It might not be all paranormal. It might be some fun or some jokes and some fun stuff. But we're definitely going to pick her brain a little bit and have some fun. And because she likes to pop up on my show and stuff. So we're going to put her on the spot next week just for fun and have a good time and see what happens. But next week, Gwen Johns. And like I said, Jeremy, thank you for coming on the show tonight. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for watching, everybody who tunes in. Thank you for your support. Everybody have a great rest of your night, and we will see you next week. And we are out of here.
Bye.